The fluorescent lights in the doctor's office buzzed like a trapped wasp, casting a sterile glow over Ethan Harper as he sat on the crinkly paper of the exam table. At 35, he was the lead mechanic at Dawson's garage in Boise, Idaho, a man who could rebuild a carburetor blindfolded, but now felt like a stranger in his own skin. The doctor, a graying man with a clipboard, delivered the news in a measured tone. Hodgkin's lymphoma, stage 2. Treatable, Ethan, but it's going to be a tough road. Chemo, radiation, the works. Survival rates were good, he said. 85% with proper care. But the words blurred together. Ethan nodded, his calloused hands gripping the table's edge, his mind stuck on one thought. I need to tell Sarah. He stumbled into the parking lot of St. Luke's Medical Center, the July heat pressing against his flannel shirt. His pickup, a '72 Chevy he'd restored himself, waited under a cottonwood tree. Ethan dialed Sarah, his wife of 8 years, his thumb hovering over the call button as if it might burn him. Hey, he said when she picked up, his voice rougher than he meant. Got some news from the doc. Can you meet me at home? Need to talk. I'm swamped, Ethan, Sarah said, her voice clipped. She was a legal assistant at a downtown firm, always juggling deadlines. Errands all afternoon. I'll be home later, okay? No warmth, no questions, just a promise to talk when it suited her. Ethan swallowed the lump in his throat. Yeah, sure, he said, and hung up. The drive home was a blur, Boise's tree-lined streets fading into the haze of his thoughts. Their craftsman bungalow on the north end came into view, its porch swing still from the day they'd moved in. Ethan parked, expecting Sarah's Prius in the driveway, but it was gone. Inside, the house felt wrong. The living room was too tidy, the air too still. He climbed the stairs to their bedroom, and that's when it hit him. Sarah's side of the closet was empty. Her dresses, her sneakers, her winter coats, gone. The suitcase from their honeymoon in Vegas, missing from under the bed. On the nightstand, the framed photo from their wedding, her in a white dress and him in a Brented tux, was nowhere to be seen. Ethan's phone buzzed in his pocket. A text from Sarah, no preamble, just 5 words. I can't do this. Attached was a screenshot of their joint savings account, the one they'd built over years of scrimping. $42,000, 0 cents, meant for a down payment on a bigger house. The balance now, $0, 0 cents. Transferred to an account with only her name. Ethan stared at the screen, his pulse pounding in his ears. 8 years of marriage, countless late nights fixing cars to pad that account, all vanished in a single click. He typed back 2 words, be well. Then he set the phone down, grabbed a Coors from the fridge and walked to the back deck. The Boise River glimmered in the distance, the sunset painting the sky in shades of fire. Ethan sat in the Adirondack chair he'd built last summer, the beer cold against his palm. He didn't formangle the tears coming. Didn't let them. He didn't smash the bottle or scream. He just sat, the weight of cancer and betrayal settling into his bones like damp rot. Across the fence, his neighbor Mike, a retired firefighter with a graying beard, leaned over. You okay, man? Saw Sarah tear out of here earlier, car stuffed to the gills. Ethan took a sip, the beer bitter. Got some health stuff, he said. Doc says lymphoma. Sarah didn't take it well. Mike's face softened. Damn, Ethan, that's rough. You need anything? Karen's got a killer lasagna recipe. Appreciate it, Ethan said, managing a nod. Mike lingered a moment, then retreated, leaving Ethan to the quiet. Inside, Ethan pulled a manila folder from the desk drawer, its edges worn from handling. His Uncle Tom, a retired estate lawyer, had given it to him after Ethan's grandpa died in March, leaving him a 10-acre plot near McCall. Get your ducks in a row, Tom had said, his voice gruff but kind. Marriage is great, but life's unpredictable. Protect what's yours. Ethan had taken it seriously, especially after the cracks in his marriage started showing. He'd updated his will, listed Sarah as co-owner on the '67 Camaro he'd spent years restoring, though he hadn't filed the final title change, and opened a separate account at a credit union for the land sale proceeds just in case. All to secure their future. Or so he thought. Now, staring at the folder, Ethan felt a bitter laugh bubble up. He'd done it to protect her, and she'd gutted him the moment he needed her most. He dialed Tom, the phone ringing twice before his uncle's gravelly voice came through. "Ethan? What's up? Remember that estate stuff we talked about?" Ethan said, steadied despite the churn in his gut. "I need to make some changes." A pause. "You all right, kid?" "No," Ethan said, "but I'm gonna be." Rewind 8 months, and the signs were there, blinking like a check engine light he'd ignored. Sarah had started pulling away, her warmth replaced by a restless edge. She'd talk about Seattle, how her firm had an office there, how Boise felt stagnant. Ethan loved his job, the grease under his nails, the satisfaction of making an engine purr. But Sarah's comments cut deeper each time. "Don't you ever want more than this?" he said, gesturing at their cozy home. "My friend Jess's husband just got a corner office in Portland. They're buying a boat." Ethan brushed it off. Every couple had rough patches, right? But then came the late nights at work, the new friends she never introduced, the way her phone was always locked. He found a business card for a Seattle apartment complex in her purse one night while looking for her keys. He didn't confront her. Confrontation wasn't his way. His mom, who'd raised him and his brother alone after their dad's heart attack, taught him to watch, plan, and act only when sure. So Ethan had called Tom, started documenting their assets. The house, the Camaro, the savings. Just in case. The night before his diagnosis, they'd eaten dinner in silence. Sarah scrolled her phone, talking about a colleague's promotion. Ethan tried to catch her eye, the fear of his upcoming biopsy clawing at him. "You okay?" she asked, barely looking up. "Just tired," he lied. She didn't press, didn't notice the way his hands shook. That was the moment he knew something was broken, but he hadn't expected her to shatter it so completely. Now, sitting in the darkening house, Ethan opened the folder. The Camaro's title stared back at him, Sarah's name penciled in but not yet official. The land sale papers still pending promised $70,000, 0 cents when finalized. He thought of the $42, 0 cents she'd taken, the house they'd poured their hearts into, the life he'd thought was theirs. Cancer was a fight he could face, chemo, radiation, whatever it took, but Sarah's betrayal? That was a wound he hadn't trained for. He closed the folder and stood, the deck creaking under his boots. The sunset was gone, the sky a deep indigo. Ethan Harper wasn't a man who broke easily. He'd rebuilt engines, homes, dreams. Now, he'd rebuild himself. Sarah thought she'd left him with nothing, but she'd underestimated him. He wasn't just a mechanic, he was a survivor. And this was only the beginning. Ethan Harper sat on the back deck of his Boise bungalow, the weight of his lymphoma diagnosis and Sarah's betrayal pressing down like a lead blanket. The sunset had faded, leaving only the hum of crickets and the bitter aftertaste of his Coors. Sarah's text, "I can't do this," and the screenshot of their emptied $42,000 0 cent savings account burned in his mind. She'd left him the day he needed her most, taking everything they'd built over 8 years. But Ethan wasn't broken. He was a mechanic, a man who fixed what others thought was lost. And he was about to fix this. Inside, the manila folder from his Uncle Tom lay open on the kitchen table, its contents a lifeline. Ethan had started preparing months ago, sensing the cracks in his marriage. Sarah's talk of Seattle, her new friends, the locked phone, they weren't just signs of drift, they were warnings of a storm. With Tom's help, Ethan had updated his will, penciled Sarah onto the title of his '67 Camaro, not yet filed, and opened a separate account at a credit union for the $70,000 0 cents from his grandpa's land sale, still pending. He'd done it to protect their future, but now it was his shield against her betrayal. Ethan dialed Tom, his voice steady despite the ache in his chest. "She's gone, Tom. Took every cent of our savings. I need to fight back. Tom's reply was immediate, no nonsense. Send me everything, texts, bank records, anything you've got. We'll make her regret this. Ethan spent the night gathering evidence. Sarah's text was the first piece, those 5 words, I can't do this. A confession of abandonment. He pulled bank statements, the transfer timestamp showing she'd emptied the account 38 minutes after his call from the doctor's office. He found an email from Sarah's cousin, Rachel, sent hours after Sarah left. Ethan, I'm so sorry. Sarah told us about your cancer but said she couldn't cope and needed a clean break. Rachel's words were a gut punch, proof Sarah knew exactly what she was doing when she ran. The next morning, Ethan drove to Tom's house, a tidy rancher on the edge of Boise. Tom, a retired estate lawyer with a boxer's build and a smoker's rasp, spread the documents across his dining table. She didn't just leave you, Ethan. She robbed you blind. Knowing you're facing medical bills, that's not just cold, it's actionable. Ethan leaned forward, his hands clenched. Joint account, her name's on it. Can we even fight that? Tom's eyes gleamed. She transferred marital funds during a documented medical crisis. Her texts, Rachel's email, the bank records, they show intent. We can argue financial abandonment, maybe even fraud if she's hiding the money. What else you got? Ethan hesitated, then pulled out the business card he'd found months ago, a Seattle apartment complex tucked in Sarah's purse. She's been planning this, talking about Seattle for months. New friends I never met, comments about my job not being enough. Tom nodded, scribbling notes. We start with the savings. Then we protect your assets. The house, the Camaro, the land. She's going to come for more, Ethan. Greedy types always do. Tom was right. A week later, as Ethan sat in a chemo chair at St. Luke's, the IV dripping poison into his veins, his phone buzzed. A letter from Sarah's lawyer, citing irreconcilable differences and demanding half the equity in their house. $120,000, 0 cents, despite her theft of the $42, 0 cents. Ethan's vision blurred, not from the chemo but from rage. She'd left him to die, taken their savings, and now wanted to carve up what was left. He called Tom from the hospital parking lot, his voice shaking. She's coming for the house, after everything. Predictable, Tom said. We're ready. Meet me tomorrow. Bring the folder. At Tom's office, they were joined by Catherine Lee, a divorce attorney with a reputation for shredding greedy exes. Catherine reviewed the evidence, her expression unreadable. This is a slam dunk, Ethan. Abandonment during a medical crisis, deliberate concealment of marital funds, and now this greedy grab for the house? No judge will let her walk away clean. What's the plan? Ethan asked, his chemo-weakened body somehow steadier with purpose. We file our own divorce action, Catherine said. We hit her with everything. Abandonment, financial malfeasance, the works. We demand full restitution of the $42,000, 0 cents, plus legal fees. And we protect your assets. The Camaro title's not finalized, right? Ethan nodded. Never filed it with the DMV. Good. We'll pull her name off. The land sale's pending. Keep that in your name only. The house is trickier, but we'll fight for it. First, we set a trap. A trap? Ethan asked. Catherine smiled, sharp as a blade. She's greedy. Greedy people get sloppy. We leak a little misinformation. Let her think you're desperate to sell the land or liquidate assets. She'll overreach, and we'll catch her. Ethan agreed, his mind racing. He thought of the chemo sessions ahead, the nausea, the hair loss. He thought of Sarah, tanning in Seattle while he fought for his life. And he thought of his mom, who'd faced her own cancer with grit, teaching him to never back down. This wasn't just about money. It was about dignity, about refusing to let Sarah erase him. The trap was simple but brilliant. Ethan called the realtor handling the McCall land sale, a woman named Carla, and asked her to pause the process, mentioning loudly on the call that he was exploring other options due to medical costs. He then contacted his 401k provider, asking about early withdrawals to cover hospital bills, knowing Sarah might have a contact at the bank or DMV from her legal work. Tom suspected her father, a Boise attorney with deep connections, was feeding her intel. 2 days later, Sarah's lawyers sent a new demand: half of any proceeds from the land sale and a cut of Ethan's retirement accounts. Tom laughed when Ethan showed him the letter. She bit, hook, line, and sinker. Thought you were broke and desperate. Now we show our hand. Catherine drafted a divorce filing that was a masterpiece of precision. It laid out Sarah's abandonment, the timed bank transfer, Rachel's email, the Seattle apartment card, and the text message. Each piece a nail in Sarah's coffin. They demanded the $42,000, 0 cents back, full ownership of the house, Camaro, and land, and legal fees. If Sarah refused, they'd pursue criminal charges for fraud. Ethan spent the next week in a chemo haze, the drugs sapping his strength, but not his resolve. His neighbor Mike dropped off a lasagna, his wife Karen adding a note, "You're tougher than this, Ethan. We're rooting for you." His brother Caleb called from Denver, offering to fly up, but Ethan asked him to wait. He needed to do this alone, at least for now. Then, as Ethan left his third chemo session, he saw a black Lexus in the hospital lot. Sarah's father, Richard, sat inside, watching. Ethan's blood boiled. He marched over, knocked on the window. Richard rolled it down, his face a mask of false concern. "Ethan, you look rough." "Cancer'll do that," Ethan said, his voice ice. "Why are you here?" "Sarah's worried, says you're being difficult about the divorce. She's willing to be fair given your condition." Ethan laughed, a harsh sound. "Fair? She stole our savings the day I got diagnosed, left me to rot. Now she wants the house?" Richard shifted. She was scared. Made a mistake. "You're sick, Ethan. Focus on getting better, not a fight you can't win." Ethan leaned closer, his voice low. "Tell Sarah I'm not the one who's scared. My response comes Friday." He walked away, heart pounding. They thought he was weak, beaten by cancer and betrayal. They didn't know about the land, the Camaro, the evidence piling up like a loaded gun. Ethan wasn't just fighting for his assets, he was fighting for every moment of his life Sarah had tried to steal. Friday morning, Catherine sent the filing to Sarah's lawyer. By noon, they requested an emergency meeting. Tom clapped Ethan's shoulder. "They thought you'd roll over, they're panicking now." As Ethan lay in bed that night, the chemo nausea fading, he felt something new. Hope. Sarah had tried to break him, but she'd miscalculated. He wasn't just surviving, he was fighting. And he was going to win. Ethan Harper's fight wasn't over when the FBI's net closed around Sarah's betrayal. The Boise bungalow, once a symbol of their shared dreams, now felt like a graveyard of promises. Sarah had stolen $42,000, 0 cents, demanded half the house, and left him to face lymphoma alone. But Ethan's counterstrike, his meticulous evidence, the trap set with Tom and Catherine, had turned the table. Sarah's lawyer was reeling, her father's smug confidence shattered. As Ethan walked away from the hospital confrontation with Richard, her father, he felt a fire kindling inside him. Cancer could bruise his body, but Sarah wouldn't break his spirit. The emergency meeting with her lawyer loomed, and Ethan was ready to end this war on his terms. The meeting took place in Catherine's sleek downtown office, a Monday morning sharp with the bite of early fall. Ethan sat silently, chemo fatigue pulling at his limbs, but his eyes were locked on Sarah. She looked polished, her hair sleek, her nails manicured, as if the past months had been a spa retreat while Ethan battled for his life. She avoided his gaze, her lawyer, a wiry man named Grayson, clearing his throat to break the tension. "We've reviewed your filing," Grayson said, his tone cautious. "While we dispute some claims, my client is open to a settlement to avoid protracted litigation." Catherine didn't blink. "This isn't a negotiation, Mr. Grayson. Your client abandoned her husband during a cancer diagnosis, siphoned $42,000, 0 cents in marital funds, and attempted to conceal them through her parents. She then demanded assets she's not entitled to. We have bank records, text messages, witness statements, and medical documentation. If this goes to court, she'll lose everything and face criminal charges. Sarah shifted, her hands twisting in her lap. Richard, seated beside her, leaned forward, his voice smooth but strained. Surely we can find a reasonable... Your daughter transferred Ethan's medical emergency funds to you, Catherine cut in, her voice a blade. We have the check. Will you return the $42,000 today? Or shall we name you in a lawsuit for receiving stolen assets? The room froze. Grayson's pen stopped mid-scribble. Sarah's eyes darted to her father, who looked like he'd swallowed glass. Ethan felt a surge of grim satisfaction. They'd thought he was too sick, too broken to fight. They were wrong. Grayson stammered, "What are your terms?" Catherine laid them out. Full restitution of the $42,000, 0 cents. Sarah relinquishes all claims to the house, the '67 Camaro, the McCall land, and Ethan's $401K. She'd cover all legal fees. In exchange, Ethan wouldn't pursue fraud charges. This is your client's chance to walk away, Catherine said. She won't get a better offer. Sarah's father muttered, "This is extortion." No, Ethan said, speaking for the first time, his voice low but steady. Extortion is what your daughter did to me. This is consequences. Sarah's head snapped up, her eyes meeting his for the first time. He saw a flicker of something. Guilt, maybe, or fear, but it vanished as she looked away. Grayson asked for 48 hours to respond. Catherine nodded, her smile cold. Don't test our patience. As they left, Sarah lingered, her lips parting as if to speak. Ethan walked past her, his boots echoing on the hardwood. In the elevator, Tom clapped his shoulder. You held your ground, kid. That took guts. Didn't feel like it, Ethan said, his voice thick. Felt like losing something I can't get back. Tom's eyes softened. You're not losing, Ethan. You're reclaiming. 2 days later, Catherine called. They folded. Sarah's parents are liquidating assets to return the $42,000, 0 cents, within 30 days. She's signing away all claims. House, car, land, everything. Legal fees are on her. It's done. Ethan exhaled, the weight lifting but leaving an ache behind. Done didn't erase the nights he'd spent alone, the chemo nausea, the betrayal, but it was a victory, hard-won and raw. The divorce finalized a week later, a quiet signing at Catherine's office. Sarah didn't show, sending Grayson instead. Ethan signed the papers, his hands steady, and walked into the Boise sunlight, free but hollow. He couldn't stay in the bungalow. Every creak of the floorboards, every shadow in the kitchen whispered of Sarah. 6 months later, after his final chemo session, Ethan sat in his oncologist's office, the words he'd fought for ringing in his ears. Complete remission. Not cured. Lymphoma could return, but for now, he'd won. He called his brother Caleb, who whooped over the phone, and then his buddy Nate in Missoula, who'd been begging him to join his custom auto shop. You still got a spot? Ethan asked. Get your ass up here, Nate said, laughing. Ethan sold the Boise house for $460,000, 0 cents, more than Sarah ever dreamed of claiming. With the money, he bought a cedar cabin outside Missoula, Montana, a 2-bedroom haven with a garage for his Camaro and a view of the Bitterroot Mountains that stole his breath. He named it Sanctuary, a place to heal. At 35, he left Dawson's garage and started at Nate's shop, crafting bespoke hot rods for clients who valued his skill. His penchant from a brief stint at a corporate shop covered the basics, and the land sale closed, adding $70, 0 cents to his new start. He adopted a black lab named Diesel, a loyal companion who slept at his feet. The chemo scars, hair loss, weight loss, faded. His strength returned, muscle by muscle, as he swung hammers and sanded wood for the locals. But the emotional scars lingered until one crisp Montana evening when a letter arrived, postmarked from Tacoma. Dear Ethan, my name is Laura Bennett. My husband's a Navy vet, diagnosed with leukemia last year. Sarah's cousin Rachel told me what Sarah did to you, how you fought back while battling cancer. Your case inspired me to check our accounts when my husband got sick. We caught his sister trying to pull a similar stunt, taking our savings while he was in chemo. Because of you, we stopped her. I don't know what it cost you to fight, but you saved our family. Thank you. Ethan read it 3 times, his eyes stinging. He walked to the creek behind his cabin, Diesel trotting beside him, and sat on a boulder, the letter trembling in his hands. He thought of Laura's husband, a man he'd never meet, whose home was safe because Ethan had refused to break. He thought of his mom, who'd faced her cancer with quiet fire, and his dad, who taught him to fix what was broken. Tears came then, not for Sarah, but for the weight of survival, the cost of standing tall. Diesel whined, nudging his hand, and Ethan let the sobs come, raw and cleansing under the Montana stars. A month later, his phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Sarah, Ethan, I heard you're in remission. I'm glad. I know you hate me, but I'm sorry. I was scared. Selfish. I think about you every day. He stared at the words, feeling nothing but a faint echo of the man who'd loved her. He typed back, I survived. Live well. Then he blocked her number, the final cut of a cord long frayed. Ethan pinned Laura's letter to his fridge, next to a photo of his parents, their smiles a reminder of where he'd come from. Some nights, when the mountain silence pressed too close, he'd read it again, grounding himself in the truth that his fight had mattered. Sarah was in Seattle, Rachel said, working at a new firm her parents' lake house sold to cover Ethan's restitution. He didn't care. She was a shadow, fading with each sunrise. One evening, as Ethan polished the Camaro under the garage's warm lights, Nate stopped by with a beer. You're a damn legend, Harper. Beating cancer, taking down your ex, starting over like this? People talk about you in town, you know? Ethan laughed, wiping his hands on a rag. Just trying to live, man. You're doing more than that, Nate said. You're showing him how it's done. Ethan looked at the Camaro, its chrome gleaming, a symbol of what he'd held on to. He hadn't set out to be a hero, just a man who refused to let betrayal define him. But in that refusal, he'd built something unbreakable. A life forged in fire, stronger than before. As the mountains glowed under the dusk, Ethan knew he wasn't just surviving, he was thriving. And no one, not Sarah, not cancer, could take that away.